Hi. So I'm going to start with part one of part B of the final. So this is the question regarding the steps of the scientific method. And I just have a bunch of notes on the side, stuff that I was writing down. So if you see me looking over to the side, that's what I'm looking at. So basically, the scientific method is a means in which psychologists and other scientists um, can use to gather information, to gather conclusions, and then to test those conclusions. So I said that usually in the beginning there's some sort of theory that's developed. This theory is a general explanation for a phenomenon that guides the question that's being asked. And then once you have that theory, the next step would be the hypothesis. The hypothesis is a testable prediction that describes in concrete terms what is expected to happen under certain circumstances. So, in regards to this original theory. So, once you have the theory, the hypothesis, then you would have the operationalization step. Operationalization, sorry, that's a big word. So in that step, you really get the abstract idea and the theory and the hypothesis into concrete ideas and something that you can test. So once the idea is real and it's concrete, the psychologist or the scientist must choose their measurement strategy. So a couple ones that we learned about in class were self-reports or observations. So whichever way the psychologist or scientist chooses to measure these variables, the next step is to design the rest of the study. So that would be deciding whether it's going to be longitudinal, experimental, correlation, or maybe even archival experiment. So once you have figured out and planned those steps of the experiment, you do the experiment out and you analyze the data and you draw the conclusions, and then at that point would be the step in the scientific method when you decide to whether you're going to reject the original hypothesis or not. Now to apply this to something that involves intimate relationships, something that we did in class, I thought of the example of, what did I say? Oh, you may start out with a theory that couples fight more when they live together. So you would turn that theory into a hypothesis. So usually hypotheses start with, I hypothesize that. So I hypothesize that couples who live together fight more than they did when they were not living together. When choosing a method, if I were a psychologist, maybe I would choose self-report. So I would instruct the couple to make, maybe they can have a note on their phone or a little notebook and make tally marks every time they have a fight, every time they enter an argument. And what I was thinking originally was this would be a perfect study for longitudinal. So you can have the couples tally up their fights before they're living together, and then as their lives progress and their relationship goes on, when they eventually do move in together, then continue tallying their arguments, and over time, the psychologist, myself, would draw the conclusions and look at these tally marks and these self-reports and draw conclusions and analyze if, they fought more before or after moving in together, and then that would lead to a conclusion of rejecting the hypothesis or not rejecting the hypothesis. So that is scientific method and how it could be applied in an experiment regarding intimate relationships.